What's up, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here, back for another episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Buffalo Bills post-game show, recapping all the action that took place this past Sunday. Talking about the Buffalo Bills, 40-0 victory over the Houston Texans. The second shutout victory in 3 wins. The second shutout victory in 4 weeks as we inch closer and closer to an epic rematch in Week 5 against the new rival of the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm Ryan Thomas, recapping all things Buffalo Bills 40-0, 3-1, second shutout in as many as 4 weeks, second shutout in 3 wins. I want to say it twice because I don't think people are really going to give this the credit that it deserves. I know Bills fans will. I know myself will during this episode of my show. But before we get a bunch of members of Bills Mafia hopping on here, I know one thing is for sure. One thing is for certain. This team is more balanced than that of years past. I've been saying it, all season long, that this team is just a better, more balanced version of the team last season. And last season, we had a great season, no doubt about it, especially on the offensive side of the football. But this Bills defense is something special. This Bills defense is something different. Granted, I will correct myself, check myself before I wreck myself, and say that the Bills defense did go up against the Washington football team. The Bills defense did go up against the Miami Dolphins. The Bills defense did go up against the Houston Texans these last 3 weeks. Those are not exactly the greatest offenses to write home about, but regardless, we can't control who we play on the schedule. We play who we play. We show up, we participate, and try to beat them. And anytime you shut out a National Football League team, no matter how good or how terrible they are, it's noteworthy. It's something to hang our hat on. And it's something to say, wow, this team is special on both sides of the ball now. This team is different on both sides of the ball now than what it was last year. Last year, we were mainly just an offensive juggernaut. With all due respect to the defense, I love our defense. I think our defense has been a strong suit in certain years. Last year was not one of them. Much like the run game last season was not one of our strong suits. But it didn't matter. We went 13-3 with this great offense. And the offense, especially in the passing game, is still the bread and butter of this team. It's just that we have a new look to this team now. A new version of this team is being seen and is being heard, as plenty of insiders or analysts or whatever you want to call them have given the Buffalo Bills their due in this short start to this season. We got a lot of weeks left. We have crucial games coming up, and I'm going to discuss the Kansas City Chiefs matchup in this show as well, previewing it. It's somewhat a 2-for-1 special in this one. Typically, I like to hop on here and really just recap the games. But rather than recapping the games, I'm going to recap the game today on this podcast as well, preview and try to predict what I think can take place on Sunday night next week, this upcoming matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. So, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast post-game show, Week 4, Buffalo Bills versus Houston Texans. I expected a blowout. I got a 40-0 blowout at the hands of the Buffalo Bills, forcing turnovers. Davis Mills. Wow. Davis Mills looked pitiful in this one. Davis Mills looked like a quarterback that just simply did not belong out there in this matchup between the Texans and Bills. And Davis Mills, I think it's safe to say the Texans can close the book on Davis Mills being the starting quarterback for the future. He was a mid-round pick, didn't work out. Maybe I'm writing him off a little too soon, but it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from an NFL offense, let alone from a quarterback. The NFL offense, Davis Mills was not good, but Davis Mills had zero help out there, whether it was the Texans offensive line, the playmakers, the skill position players. They were not there for him, and he was not there for them. It was a colossal failure on the offensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans, and David Culley was the first man to point that out. And David Culley, the Houston Texans head coach. I knew that this one was going to be easy in terms of how we could rack up this W. I did not expect it to be this much of a blowout, a 40-0 for the defense to hold any offense to a goose egg. I don't care how bad or how good that offense is. That is noteworthy. That is something to write home about. And I want to talk about the defense because this game did come at a price, and we'll talk about that. Water break here. Okay. I will remind you guys to fire away your comments in the comment section below. Follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take, as the ticker says, YouTube and Facebook, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. The Buffalo Bills defense is different this year than it was last year, and it has created results. Why is this defense different this year than it was last year? The defense is simply different because it has front four pressure capability with a lot of new bodies and returning bodies back to this defensive line. We can talk about Gregory Rousseau. We can talk about Ed Oliver. We can talk about AJ Epinesa. We can talk about Boogie Basham, who got a big sack in this game, his first NFL career sack in a regular season game. But I want to talk about one man that I think deserves a boatload of credit for what he has contributed back to this defensive line. It was talked about by the Bills within the locker room. It was talked about by the players in interviews, whether they're being interviewed by John Murphy or Chris Brown or Steve Tasker, just how crucial and how important a man like Star Latuile is to this defensive line. We're seeing it, whether it's in the run stopping department or the pass rushing department. We have Ed Oliver and Star Latuile side to side, drawing those double teams. We have defensive ends flushing the pocket, allowing another defensive end to come from the backside and pressure and hurry and frustrate the quarterback. We did not have that last year, folks. We didn't have that at all. We had pressures, we had hurries, but we didn't turn those pressures and hurries into sacks. This defense has racked up its sacks. I know firsthand, owning this unit for fantasy football purposes, Buffalo Bills defense has been fantastic these last 3 weeks. Pittsburgh was that week where, things didn't really go our way all day long. It was just a weird game. Things didn't go our way. But I mentioned the defense because if I were to look at the Buffalo Bills and if I were to look at the Kansas City Chiefs and stack these teams up, as I will, there's something that's glaring to me in our defense compared to Kansas City's. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show. But the main improvement in the offense, as if this offense needed to improve at all, it didn't need to improve, but it has. In moments where Josh Allen hasn't looked like he could throw for 400, 500 yards in a game, in moments where Allen struggled early in the season, we saw these players in particular take a massive step up in terms of contributing to this team, to this offense. Two players come to mind. And when I say experienced role players, that doesn't mean that they have to have as many years in the league as Emmanuel Sanders. That doesn't mean that they have to, play with guys like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and, the who's who like Emmanuel Sanders has. And Big Ben. That doesn't mean that. What I mean by experienced role players is in the sense that, Emmanuel Sanders is one of those experienced role players, as well as these players on this offense that are maturing. Man by the name of Dawson Knox. I will post this. I will take credit. I will say I told you so. The breakout is here. The breakout for Dawson Knox has arrived. It was only a matter of time. I am an avid tweeter, I should say. I'm an avid tweeter. Not as much as I was last season so far, but I will tweet more often. And all I saw last year, outside of people complaining about the vaccine and saying they should get it, the masks, all that stuff, I'm on Twitter just for the sports takes. And the sports takes were so anti-Dawson Knox that I had to remind people it was his second year. We're in his third year now. This is the jump. This is where the jump is expected, and the jump is being seen. And the jump is being heard by guys in that locker room that Dawson Knox took this offseason in particular, approached it in a completely unique way with a visualization coach. This guy went deep into his mind to find whatever it was that was missing. And I'm not saying that the visualization coach, I didn't even know that existed. And I'm not saying that a visualization coach turned in these results, but it certainly has helped because Dawson Knox looks like a completely different player out there. He can block, he can catch, he can run routes. He looks like a bona fide stud at the tight end position. It was only a matter of time and experience, not necessarily being a veteran, but being a experienced player. Year 2, year 3, we can come to say year 3 is that big jump for Dawson Knox. It has been, and then some, and it has been very exciting to see. If this offense wants to be better, if this offense had to be better in any which way, it is certainly lying within the tight end position. It certainly lies within having a run game, a well-versed, a balanced run game. And that is something that Buffalo has had twofold, whether it's a balanced run game or contributions from Dawson Knox at the tight end position. Not many teams have quality tight ends, and I think Buffalo is one of them. I think, and I hope, that the Dawson Knox haters are gone. I'm hoping that they're gone. I'm hoping that they're nowhere to be found. I know they're nowhere to be found because the same people tweeting that Dawson Knox was no good, was a bust, was a reach, those people are gone. They don't exist. Poof. Thin air. Those takes, they'll never take ownership for them. Shame on them. Shame on them. Never judge a player after 2 years. Never. And another player that stepped up big time that I think deserves his own shout out in terms of this show and putting praise on these players, that some of them, you know their names as far as who the players are that are on this team that can make that obvious contribution. But then you have players like Spencer Brown. Is Spencer Brown a standout rookie after watching that performance this past Sunday against the Houston Texans? He damn well sure looked like it. Lining up at right tackle, you had Darrell Williams at right guard. Due to John Feliciano being out, the line was a little bit shifted more than normal. And I thought Spencer Brown looked great last week against the Houston Texans. Now, Houston doesn't have Jadeveon Clowney anymore. They don't have J.J. Watt anymore. But throwing a late-round rookie lineman in there against veteran defenders, he looked pretty damn good. And if the Buffalo Bills can show that they have depth along this offensive line, that's an advantage that not many teams have, if any at all. I was very impressed with Spencer Brown. Run blocking, pass blocking. He was protecting the strong side of Josh Allen very well, and that's important because Allen loves to roll out to the strong side and try to fire a pass on the run. Brown allowed him to do that. In very clutch moments in this game, you go back, you check the tape, Spencer Brown allowed Josh Allen to roll out to the strong side and make some really nice throws. And that was something that Darrell Williams had a tough time doing. So I'm very curious to see when Feliciano does come back, how does this offensive line shape up and shake out? With Brown at right tackle, potentially moving forward. You got to look at that performance and say, credit where credit is due. A rookie offensive lineman looked pretty damn good in this game. And I think he turned a lot of heads on that sideline of both teams, whether it was the Bills or the Texans. I don't even think the Bills expected him to play at that level that he did this past weekend. So a 40-0 win. I expected a blowout. I got a blowout. And frankly, I think that this team is much better than what they're given credit for even heading into the season. What I even said they were. And I was saying all season long that this is the team to beat in the AFC East. We have a 2-game advantage in the AFC East. With all three other teams at 1-3, we're 3-1, and we're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs as I move forward now to preview the Chiefs rematch, an epic rematch of the AFC title game last season, a game in which Buffalo had a 2-possession lead and unfortunately squandered it en route to a loss. And Kansas City goes to the Super Bowl. They play Tampa Bay and they come up short. So the question will always be, if Buffalo got past Kansas City, at least in my opinion, if they got past Kansas City, could we have beaten Tampa Bay? We will never know. We'll never know. But how are these teams different than what they were last year? Kansas City was a freight train last year. They were a freight train the year before en route to their first Super Bowl title in quite some time. And in the modern era, I guess you could say, Buffalo was a freight train offensively, but I spoke briefly on it. Buffalo was a one-dimensional offense last year. Now Buffalo comes into this matchup against Kansas City with a more balanced offensive attack. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. 1 week Moss is better than Singletary. 1 week Singletary is better than Moss. That's okay. As long as they both can be featured within the offense, I think we have something here. As far as a two-back set, a two-back system where both guys can really feed off of one another. Moss can do things that Singletary is lacking, and Singletary can definitely do things in areas that Moss is lacking in. I think they complement one another really well, fit the offense really well. Depending on the tempo, the situation in the game, Devin Singletary is a stud. Zach Moss is a battering ram. I really like those two. I always have, and that was something that I'll go back to last offseason. Most people wanted Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. I did not. I like Zach Moss. I like Devin Singletary, and they've proven it to me these last few weeks. Every reason why they belong on this team. Moss has had some fumble-rooski problems. Devin Singletary needs to continue to do what he's doing. He's had a rough week last week, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, but staying patient, using his vision, falling forward, just the little things that he does, they really add up when he's on. They really add up, and they close out games. I think the Bills have the ability to close out games via the run in ways that they just simply did not last season, whether it was Singletary being banged up, Moss being banged up, the offensive line not really having that depth that they had last year, as I mentioned, and the team coming together with different unique pieces that can actually block, like Dawson Knox. Emmanuel Sanders threw one of the best run blocks this season for Devin Singletary's 46-yard scamper against the Miami Dolphins. That just shows you the level of talent that he is. So I'm thinking to myself, going into this game, we have all the ability and then some to be a well-balanced, well-versed offense on both sides of the ball, as whether it be passing or running, both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively, I should say, as well. This defense, Bills defense, is so much better than Kansas City's defense. Our offense should be able to go through Kansas City's defense like a hot knife through butter. The question is, can we stop Pat Mahomes? The question is Kansas City as deep as they once were? The question is, outside of Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and I do love me some Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's had a down year so far this year. Could he be used heavily in this game? I think he could. Against Buffalo, he was heavily used last year in the regular season as we played them last year en route to a victory for the Chiefs. This is the hill. This is the mountain that the Bills have to climb. The Chiefs are the team that we need to beat in order to be in that elite of the elite conversation. And I think the Bills have the intangibles this year in comparison to last year at doing just that. I think if Buffalo has as good a chance as anybody to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, Cleveland, who is a team that I greatly prop up in the AFC, I think they're one of the three best teams along with Buffalo and the Chiefs in the AFC. The Browns and the Chiefs went toe-to-toe, and Cleveland lost a nail-biter. Buffalo, I think, is better than Cleveland on offense. They're deeper on offense. In terms of the wide receivers, most definitely deeper. Defensively, front seven, similar to Cleveland. Secondary, Buffalo better than Cleveland. In every facet of the defensive side of the ball, I think Buffalo's better than Kansas City. I'm not going to give you a score prediction yet. That's what Sunday morning, afternoon is for. But I am really excited for this game. I think Buffalo has good a chance as anybody to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Kansas City 2-2 heading into this one. Buffalo 3-1. If Buffalo can go 4-1 with a win over Kansas City, this might be the year. Just might be the year. I hate to say that so soon, but it just might be the year. There you have it. I'm Ryan Thomas. I'm going to be going over the scores right now as we finish recapping the Buffalo Bills game with the Houston Texans. Buffalo Sabres are on right now. They started against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's NHL preseason action. The Sabres are 1-3. The Penguins are 2-1. It's going to be a very interesting year for the Buffalo Sabres. And tonight, of course, the AL wildcard game between the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. The best rivalry in baseball is reignited with this game. Garrett Cole versus Nathan Eovaldi. I cannot wait for this game. The action starts at 8 o'clock on ESPN. And I will be sure to be done with this show so that I can watch that, because I need to watch it. I'm rooting for my Red Sox, of course. I'm not a Yankees fan. Let's go over the scores of Week 4. Thursday Night Football. The Jacksonville Jaguars fall to 0-4 with a close game against the Cincinnati Bengals. The rookie McPherson, the kicker in Cincinnati, gets his second game-winning kick, 24-21. Joe Burrow, second half for the ages, 25 of 32, 348 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Tyler Boyd, 9 catches, 118 yards on the day. Buffalo Bills, of course, forcing 5 turnovers en route to a 40-0 victory over the Houston Texans, as we've mentioned. And Houdini Heineke, the Washington football team, beating the Atlanta Falcons 34-30 on a late touchdown. Heineke, 23 of 33, 290 yards and 3 scores. Terry McLaurin, as I said, a superstar in the making, superstar on the rise. 6 catches, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns from McLaurin. The Detroit Lions fall to 0-4 with a 24-14 loss as Justin Fields racks up his first win in his NFL career as the Chicago Bears move to 2-2. 2-0 at home at Soldier Field. David Montgomery, 23 catches, over 100 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns. But Montgomery is out for the next 4 to 5 weeks with an ACL sprain. Damian Williams looks to take the rock. I expect him to be a hot waiver wire ad tomorrow morning for fantasy football owners out there. Carolina Panthers fall to 3-1. Dallas Cowboys move to 2-0 at home and 3-1 on the season as Ezekiel Elliott runs over the Carolina Panthers, and Dak Prescott looks as good as he's ever looked. 4 passing touchdowns. Dak is probably in line for comeback player of the year, I would say. With that horrible of an ankle injury, Dak Prescott, fantastic. Moving on, the Indianapolis Colts, 27-17 victory over the Miami Dolphins. Carson Wentz gets it done for the Colts. First one of the season. Wentz, moderately okay day, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns, but Jonathan Taylor was the story in this one, over 100 rushing yards. He toted the rock for the Indianapolis Colts, had over 20 touches in this one, 16 carries, a few receptions as well. The Cleveland Browns had a very gritty 14-7 win against current Cleveland Browns coach Kevin Stefanski's former team, the Minnesota Vikings, of course. Kirk Cousins, okay day. Nick Chubb, okay day. This one really was nothing to write home about. It was really just a dud of a game. Final in overtime, 27-21 as the Giants get their first win of the season. Saquon Barkley had a hell of a day against the Giants, against the New Orleans Saints. Daniel Jones getting it done, 402 yards passing for Danny Jones, 2 passing touchdowns. Maybe that'll keep the New York media off his back just a little bit. The New York Jets with an amazing clutch victory over the Tennessee Titans, 27-24. Ryan Tannehill, without his top 2 wideouts, Derrick Henry says it doesn't matter. 33 carries, 157 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Robert Saleh has to be really, really thrilled and really thankful for this one as the Jets are able to come out with a victory. The Chiefs winning 42-30 over the Philadelphia Eagles. And the only undefeated squad in the NFL that remains, the Arizona Cardinals, with a 37-20 victory over the LA Rams. Russell Wilson gets past the San Francisco 49ers 28-21. The Ravens knock out the Broncos from the unbeaten ranks with a 23-7 victory. And Randall Cobb, as well as Aaron Rodgers, connecting often as the Packers win 27-17. And, of course, Sunday Night Football's Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus New England Patriots Tom Brady homecoming game. You have reason to believe that this is going to be one of the highest rated games, and the ratings trickle in. Tom Brady, he's the man. He's the man, the storyline, everything. I thought the storyline was a little overplayed, but it was a really good game. Close game, 19-17, game-winning field goal by the Bucs at the end there. Nick Folk misses it on 56 yards in the final minute. And then last night's Monday Night Football action, the LA Chargers knock the Raiders out of the unbeaten record ranks of moving to 3-1, as well as the Chargers moving to 3-1. The game was pretty damn good last night. And if there's ever a case for a superstar quarterback in this league, outside of Pat Mahomes, outside of Josh Allen, it is, of course, Justin Herbert. So What a fantastic game that was. I thought the Raiders looked pretty good in moments. It was close, but no cigar for them. Austin Eckler had a hell of a day. 15 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Greatly looking forward to next week's action. There's a lot of really good games in this week 5 action here. One that I'm really keeping my eye on. Outside of the Bills and Chiefs, of course, you have the Broncos and the Steelers, as the Steelers are now 1-3. Can Denver keep the Steelers down? And you also have the Browns and Chargers. That's going to be a really good one on CBS at 4:05. Giants Cowboys is always a good one. And Monday night, you have the Colts and the Ravens, of course. So great NFL action on the way in week 5. But, of course, the Sunday Night Football game will be better than any between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be great. I cannot wait. Revenge season is upon us. It is time. Revenge is sweet, they say. I think it's better than sweet. I'm expecting this one to be one of the best games of the season. So I'll be sure to keep you guys posted on all things Buffalo Bills from here on out the rest of the season, of course. I'm going to be lining up some awesome guests. My schedule, folks, has been crazy. I'm working all the time, trying to get on here just to get my voice out there as much as I can. I got a new gig that I'm really excited about, and I've been just really busy these last, few weeks, but I'll be sure to get some guests on, and I can't wait to have you guys tune in. So thanks for tuning in. Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Bills post-game show. Hope you enjoyed it. Go Bills.